Yes, welcome back, Russell.
Hello, how's it going?
Since the last time we saw in person, which was in Denver at Amplify conference, like the whole world around us has changed profoundly. I think it's safe to say, and maybe not
A
in
little bit.
all respects to a perfectly agreeable uh, um, direction. The funny thing though is that actually I'm feeling perfectly well.
Yeah,
It's all.
it's yeah, one or two things have changed. I could say that for sure as an American that I've noticed that. Yeah, it's an interesting situation of like it's definitely a test of fundamental well-being if you want to put it like that. Of like, oh, is it for real? Like, are you really okay? How okay do you feel? What about when everything else goes wrong? How okay do you feel now? So yeah, we're being put through the fire, basically.
Yeah, and on the other hand, like when we met in Denver for Amplify, I had the same situation like when we met here for the Sinking In Festival. Like you are almost in a golden cloud of protection, of yeah, not worrying. Not this is not to say that everything from the outside is suddenly evaporizing or so. It's obviously there, um, but
Are you
coming.
talking about me personally being in a golden cloud? Is that what you're saying? Like I seemed like I was in a golden cloud, or just in?
Participants as a
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. That makes more sense. Yeah,
And I think that is probably even more important in the situation that we are in now, to create and strengthen these collective fields of peace,
yeah,
to
right.
and happiness and compassion. And I mean, I heard that empathy has been turned into a problematic feature by some particular person in the States recently. I think it's perfectly important to have. And so
Yeah,
these experiences together, I think, are even more important now than before.
yeah. Actually, you mentioning that, it kind of reminds me of just the like sinking in general, like why Jeffrey talks about it. Because like whatever you focus on gets brought to the surface more and becomes more of your reality. So like if everything's going wrong, how much more important is it to actually focus on community and like our shared experience of peace and love and whatever togetherness? Like the more we focus on that, the more we can like radiate it out to affect things around us.
Yeah, and also in terms of widening, deepening, and sinking, the world is becoming much bigger anyway. So for example, at the moment, spring is coming here, and nature is becoming more alive. Um,
Mhm.
you can say, yeah, well, there is this human uh, layer, so to speak, or the media layer, or the layer of politics, and all this is obviously important. But there's also the layer of the ants, or anything that's happening within the soil,
Mhm.
the microscopic layers of, the bustling with life and activity and so on. And so I think this is not to, yeah, not to, uh, um, let's say, say everything is harmless that is happening. It's absolutely not. But even there, I think, yeah, I mean, turbulences are going on in nature all the time,
Yeah.
and still nature as such seems relatively intact.
Yeah. Well, on a cosmic level, like who cares? It's like, yeah. Humans are gonna come and go, and we're gonna do our thing. And I just want to enjoy my ride as much as I can and spread as much happiness and peace that I can while I'm here. But yeah, no, I 100% agree with you that grand scheme of things, humans and human turbulence is a pretty small piece of the puzzle.
Now, given that we are talking about the Sinking In Festival, the second edition from July 14th to July 20th this year, um, what developed in like your thinking in technique or in your conscious curiosity um, project since last year?
Yeah, so since last year, so just to recap, last year I spent most of the first half of the year doing individual, like one-on-one coaching with people to help guide them through what I'm now calling the deepening process or the deepening framework, where it's like a small set of techniques to shift deeper into fundamental being and like progress through it from the point of what I call partial equanimity, where you have this sense of peace underlying everything that you can find, but sometimes you have to go looking for it. And you're trying to get to complete equanimity, which is where it's just there all the time and you can't even go looking for it because it's so obvious. Because how could you be anything but okay all the time? So that was what I did. It's based off techniques that I had done in my own personal exploration, all techniques I had used and like done for my own progression to go really far. And then experimented with seeing how far I could get other people. And I worked with a couple dozen people, at least personally, and about a dozen of them I took from the beginning, from partial equanimity to complete equanimity, all the way through.
Hmm.
And it was really interesting learning that, like, refining the questions I would ask and like how I would know when people were making progress versus when they were sort of stuck and needed to do some deconditioning or maybe focus on gratitude, things like that. So yeah, so a lot of things happened to refine that process over the first half of last year, and then I mean the end of last year was mostly about getting Amplify running because that was in October of last year. So I didn't have a ton of space to work on the individual coaching, which I had stopped by that point anyway. But now going into this year, been working with Boris and Colette, who have the deepening protocol, which is based on my deepening framework. Um, and by the way, the deepening framework is open and available. Like people can go read it on my website and build stuff off of it, whatever they want. There's also, Jason's guided shifting, which we talked about, is based on my deepening framework. But with Boris and Colette, I've been working with them to build a more rigorous like training program for people who want to guide others through this. So like coaches,
Yeah.
practitioners to guide other people through it. So we're getting into the details of like, okay, how do you really know when someone's making progress? What are the things you need to focus on? How do you get that to integrate with the rest of their life? Which is something I didn't really focus on. I just was like, yeah, I'll deepen you then. Good luck. But one thing I love, I'm really grateful to have people who are focused on coaching, which I was like, I knew for me it was a research project. I wasn't really trying to be a coach full time, but we have so many people now who are like, no, I want to actually help people deepen this in their life. And so they're finding all these techniques for how do you carry it with you throughout the weeks and things like that, and not just have it be these shifts that are very real and happening, but you're sort of not sure how to make sure they're affecting the rest of your life. So yeah, it's been really awesome working with them to develop these training programs. We focused on what's been called Rastals regions, which is kind of like the map of
Yeah.
going from partial to complete equanimity. Um, and yeah, that's kind of been the focus, the evolution of what we were exploring with all my one-on-one coaching last year. So yeah, that's been really exciting.
Yeah.
I think in the first sorry, real quick, the first cohort has like eight people being trained as coaches right now, and then it's just there's already a wait list, and so it's going to expand from there. So pretty exciting.
That is really exciting because I mean that is also my impression from afar. You know that like your technique has started to disseminate,
Mhm.
basically in a virus style fashion.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
And more and more people are picking it up, playing with it, experimenting with it, and there's a body of experience growing with this. Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
that is really the challenge that we have in front of us, that we are not, most of us, on the way to become monks. Uh,
right.
Dialectic with all these, complicated everyday situations and all kinds of pressures and so on, and that is not necessarily only a problem. It can also be a resource. Uh,
Oh, absolutely.
I
So I was, yeah. Oh,
amplify
sorry, go for it.
that Angelo Delulu more or less legalized shadow work.
Right.
Be clear, it's not a setback, it's not a defeat on the way to awakening, but actually
Mhm.
a step forward, and it is fully part of the awakening curriculum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something I explicitly call out in my like on my website in the documentation for the deepening framework is like every single person I worked with. I don't think there was a single exception. Every single person I worked with, there was at least one or two full 90-minute sessions that we had to dedicate just to deconditioning because of how much fear or resistance came up.
Yeah.
You never know, you don't really know when it's going to happen. It's different for every person. And the content of it, like what's causing that like resistance to come up is different. But fully 90 minutes where you're quote unquote not making progress anymore. You're just having to focus on whatever's coming up. And that's fine. That's like actually it's a like you were saying, like it is part of the program. It is actually a good sign in my view. Like, oh, okay, good. We've now lowered enough resistances. That stuff you've been ignoring and weren't even aware were under the surface. It's coming to the surface.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree. In the integration part of it, and I mean, you mentioned like we're not becoming monks. The fact that most of us on this journey are actually trying to live lives and interact with other humans, which other humans are a really great source of testing our fundamental well-being. Um, that's actually, in my view, it's a really good resource. Like, okay, well, now I have to decondition this that I wouldn't have had to. Like, sure, there's a trade-offs of like going do the monk thing, but I mean, I had a full-time job this entire journey and like dealing with the big corporations that are very heavily politicized. And boy, oh boy, is there a lot of stress going on and people trying to put pressure onto you that you don't really care about, but like you still internalize it to an extent. No, yeah, I agree that like living your life is like such a rich resource for this journey. Yeah, I agree. Yes,
And also, I mean, life is very much impacted by, these internal transformations and openings.
100%. Yeah,
Um,
one of my favorite things is there's a certain point where people would start reporting that one that they would notice their own reactivity decreasing, like oh, like things aren't bothering, like my spouse can't push my buttons. But also more than one person said, yeah, my spouse is getting frustrated because they can't push my buttons anymore. So like they are getting frustrated that in arguments it doesn't work, like their same tactics don't work anymore. Yeah.
I mean, that is almost like the toy being taken away or so, yeah. And so if people are
Yeah.
used to push somebody around, I mean, it's a source of great satisfaction.
Yeah.
And suddenly it doesn't work anymore. Yeah. I mean, sources of happiness, I must say for me, having so fantastic people here at my place where I live all year, last year for the Sinking In Festival was a great source of happiness, of course. But if I may report what happened afterwards was very interesting because then we had these 5 days, yeah, and it was I think for everybody who was here. I mean, it was just a fantastic experience, and the weather was beautiful and everything, and the sauna was operating and so on. And we were meditating so much. And so there was so much, very, very positive energy created here. So I wondered what will happen after that. Will it be, now a perfect ride towards peace and so on? And I very quickly had the impression, no, this is probably not. So what's happened is that within the team, who are not all in fundamental well-being and so on, huge arguments erupted
Interesting.
immediately after that, or like in the week after that. And I was sitting there, people starting fighting on the table. I was sitting there more or less, not reached by this energy too much.
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
So I must say, immediately aware that this is a healthy thing to happen. Because there has been conflictuous energies under the carpet. Then
Mhm.
you had these, what was it, like 50 people or so meditating, and there was this beaming peace and harmony and everything, and that like shed so much light and increased the contrast, so to speak, that
Mhm.
afterwards it came up. And finally the process that came out of it was quite strengthening for the project as a whole. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really great. I wasn't aware of that. That's like a really great, yeah, really great example of all this. That's really cool, man.
Now, this year, we will be going for a full week. Last year it was 5 days. And you know, the reason for this is really that last year I thought because I was, I mean, really shocked from where people came. I mean, like
Yeah.
Costa Rica and
I was about to say Costa Rica.
and my impression was that many people really had to struggle with jet lag to a certain.
Mm,
And then also the practice program was relatively tough. You know, I mean, we started like I don't know, what was it, 10 o'clock or so, or 9 o'clock or something, and there was quite a lot. And you know, people are used to meditate a lot and to do things, and there were different techniques and different sessions. But I thought to have a little bit more air in between, uh,
yeah.
so that people also can, you know, chat more with each other or so.
Yeah,
Uh,
for sure.
and so this day, this year, there will even be one day, which will be Thursday, completely without program.
Oh, nice.
This is not to say that nothing's going to happen, but it will be nothing that is so to say centrally decided and pre-organized. I
Yeah.
suspect, you know, that various things will then fill that day. Like people will maybe do one-on-one sessions.
Mhm.
Maybe they will take a walk in the forest or go to a lake or
There'll
whatever
probably be a spontaneous dance party. Like, who knows? Yeah, yeah. That's
is possible. Um,
right.
but I thought that's quite important because the socializing aspect of it is also not just an add-on to the
Right.
turbocharging of your enlightenment or awakening process. Um, but it is like with these conferences, yeah, you have a conference and like in the work context and so on, and everything is very scripted, organized, and somebody's, you know, and then
Right.
go out to smoke, and the best idea comes up,
Right.
something like
Right.
that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So have more space for things to really spontaneously show up and just happen, and more like social interaction taking place, and you know, that's
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, that definitely reflects how we're trying to do for Amplify. The like one thing we're hammering home is that all the sessions are there to help the community, not the other way around. Like we're not bringing people together to do the sessions. We're bringing the sessions together so that people can be there. Like it's about the people. So yeah, I think that's going to be really awesome to see what happens on Thursday, especially after there's like all these intense things, and then you just let people like let whatever is going to emerge. That'll be really exciting to see, actually.
why I chose Thursday to do it, because then you will have like 4 days. If
Hmm.
people will probably start arriving on Sunday or so, but you will have 3 4 days where people, you know, can yeah, harmonize into this collective energy and build up a certain energy, and then there is just this open space that
Hmm.
you know. And I think that's often in life also, you know, we are changing something or something ends, yeah, some work or whatever kind of um, feature in our life that has dominated our life for a long time ends, and then we have this immediate urge to fill it, to fill the gap, something new. I have to decide, and so on. And normally, if you simply not decide, uh, life will fill it with something showing up. Maybe not automatically. Maybe you try in this direction, that direction, but you know, life will take care of it. And I saw
Right.
that you also changed the name, right, from Amplify Conference to Amplify Gathering. This is also which I think is a better term actually.
Yeah, well, it's like it's part retreat, part conference. It's not really, but really the point is getting people together regardless. It's not about, yeah, the conference part. So yeah, it felt like the right change to make. Because that's what it's about.
I said last year that Sinking In is like a hybrid between a meditation boot camp and a hippie festival also.
Nice. That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
So I mean, because on the other hand, you know, people are flying in from all over the world because they want to really enhance their
Right.
process, and they are all used to seriously meditate, and you know, doing something for 1 hour, 1.5 hour is not something completely novel for people that, you know, will not be uh,
Right.
possible also. Um, yeah, and the other thing is that Sanjay will also be here again, and he will come from Barcelona. There is
Oh,
this
right. Because he's gonna be in the Consciousness Festival, right?
Just a festival in Barcelona. I actually will be myself in Barcelona. And this is also why I had to move the Sinking In Festival for 1 week, which is a little bit stupid because at the Amplify conference, I put out, these dates and now
Yeah.
I move it. But, given that you have not that many international finders events, having then two in Europe at the same date would just
Right.
very stupid. And
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
fly in to Europe, go to Barcelona, and come here. And I think in that sense, it's simply nicer and makes more sense. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. You will also then do a number of live Sinking In sessions. Um,
Mhm.
again, when you think back about last year, what's stuck out for you in terms of your own sessions that you offered? You also offered common sessions with Sanjay, for example.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, so I will say, I'll just say off the bat, the Sinking In Festival was the first time I did any in-person uh,
What?
sessions. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. So that was a grand experiment for me.
So flattered.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the reasons I was like, oh, this is going to be such an exciting thing to try out. And so that it was very experimental for me. You know, I did my normal, guided sinking in. Like there's a pretty I have a pretty good routine with it now, and like it's pretty structured for me. Even if people feel different things every time they go through a guide to sinking in with me, um, but being able to experiment with like the core session formats, like I did one where I tried to do group sinking in, where I'm guiding everyone through the deepening process, versus like pulling someone up, one person, and focusing on them, and like having everyone else kind of follow along as I'm focusing on one person. And then the joint thing with Sanjay. So yeah, it was really fun, like very experimental for me. So I imagine it's going to be somewhat similar. Like there's been some new developments bubbling in my mind that I haven't fully formulated yet, but I think by the time the Sinking In Festival comes around, they'll be formulated, and I think people are going to have a wild experience with it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really fun. Last year, I would say the one learning to do it. I had never done a joint session with anyone before, so me and Sanjay doing that was the first time I'd ever done something like that, which was cool. Um, but yeah, like feeling and seeing a group of people all on camera at the same, not on camera, sorry. I'm so used to being on camera. All right there, and like just the visceral feeling of like everyone doing sinking in and deepening, and like that energy, there was something really special about it. Yeah, I'm likely at some point in the future going to start doing retreats just purely because of the experience I had at the Sinking In Festival. Like that's how powerful it was for me, that I'm like, okay, I have to figure out how to do something like this on a more regular basis. So we'll see what happens this year.
I'm
I'm excited
overjoyed
though.
with this, and also I started 45 days as an online course in the middle of the second Corona lockdown, so there was a
Right.
moment of complete isolation, and the digital world was the only window practically
Right.
towards the rest of the world and other people. And then I was very, very happy with what is possible over Zoom and, GAEs over Zoom. And I think it's absolutely to be cherished what is possible in that sense. But then after 1 or 2 or 3 years doing it like this, and you have this, as I always call it, the digital Sangha, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
unity of practitioners, but it's all digital. And of course, it's great because you are in the States, he is in Japan, and we're coming together.
Yeah.
But then you tend to think that everything is possible. And you have to have the experience of really coming together to find out that this is not the case.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Like I had worked with Sanjay like for 3 years before he came here. So I thought I know the guy relatively well. Came, like the first impression was, well, this is the Sanjay that I know from, the flat screen on Zoom or so. And of course he is. But then in the course of 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, it felt like there's more dimensions opening up, being added to it. Sometimes there was much more Sanjay as like a complex, oscillating uh,
Mhm.
field or something like that. Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is what we. Not even to start with, smells and stuff which are very impactful for our brain, and so on, which are not probably most many cases or some cases it's quite well that they are not transmitted through Zoom, but all these
Yeah.
things. And it was funny the first time I approached you about the Thinking In Festival last year. You then said, "Oh, that's so funny because I'm organizing something similar for the States
Mhm.
with Amplify last year." And so, I wish to, I tend to think about these two events as, some kind of, sister events or
Yeah,
so.
that's exactly the word I was using. Yeah, I agree.
North American side as well as for the European side, while I must say, I think it's particularly great if both events have more of a global character to it. There was this, what's the name, the Japanese finder?
Hi. Yeah.
So I think that is very, very important, really, to opening up the space, that people from all different backgrounds and experiences are coming together. Yeah. All right, cool. So, the second Thinking In Festival at Weitersroda Castle from July 14th to 20th this year. The ticket sale is up. Accommodation button is active. And so for you, it's easy. I will put you again somewhere where you can communicate with my cat.
Nice. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, come to the castle just to meet the cat, if nothing else. It's a pretty great cat. So
All right, cool. Then so far, see you in July. Thank you.
yeah,
Bye.
looking forward to it. Very excited, honestly. Looking, yeah, so much forward to it.
Bye bye.